Hi, my name is Marissa. I am a single mom of 2 young boys, and this is my divorce story. I had mediation yesterday, so I will talk about that at the end, as it is the end of the timeline. But before that, let's get into a little bit of housekeeping. If you guys are not following me on my TikTok and Instagram, go follow me there. My Instagram is Marissa May, M-A-E Jackson, and my TikTok is Marissa May 96. Subscribe and turn on your guys' post notifications so you can be notified when I post, because sometimes it be sporadic. Sometimes it's a little bit better. I'm trying to get better at posting on here, but I think it is time to finally do a divorce story. I'm gonna also say as a disclaimer that I might forget things in the story. I have undiagnosed ADHD, so I have a really hard time telling stories, but please hang with me. I will do my best. So I think that we need to start off with a little bit of background and kind of how me and my ex-husband met. So we met in 2016 in college. We both went to a religious Christian college, which kind of gives some background to why we got married so young, things like that. So we met as freshmen at the end of 2015 and started dating in 2016. Now, a lot of people ask me if there were signs at the time. I'm gonna be completely honest. There were, looking back, signs, but at the time I believe I was a bit too naive and young to really see them as what they were. There was also a lot of things that were hidden from me, and truths and like lies that were told that I really had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. But he ended up proposing in 2018, I believe, and we officially got married in April of 2019. We also bought a house in March, right before we got married, and then we both moved into it after getting married. So we didn't live together before marriage, which also plays a little part in just like not fully knowing everything. Oh, have girl. Throughout our marriage, we were only together, like married for 4 years, but we were together for 7 total, and it's been 10 years now that we've known each other, which is crazy. But throughout that time, there's definitely times where I was starting to notice certain things that were like being hidden from me, stuff like that. I'm not gonna really get into it, but I think it was the end of 2022 where I was kind of like, wait, this is kind of like bordering the line that this is like definitely not okay. There was like a long time where I was not okay with how I was being treated, but I think it like crossed lines, I would say like that October or so of 2022. And I think right away I like went and talked to my mom about it, which I really highly recommend, finding someone that you trust in your circle to talk to and not just like keep it in all the time, because I know that like keeping your relationship private is important, but it crossed a certain line where I needed to talk to somebody about it for a multitude of reasons. So went to my mom. Now, I'm not one to like make drastic decisions right away, so I definitely waited a couple months to kind of think and plan and things like that. So there was one night that I was in our bed and I wasn't being treated right, and I just kind of got up and I came down and I slept on the couch, and that was the first time that I ever like looked up, I actually like looked it up on TikTok, divorce, because I really didn't know like what to expect, or I didn't really know anyone very close to me who had been divorced, so I looked that up. I also posted on Reddit. Yeah, kind of crazy. You'll never find the posts, guys, they're like long gone, but posted on Reddit kind of what had happened and things like that, and to get some advice, and that was really helpful as well. But we had this vacation planned already, and I wasn't even sure yet. I wasn't gonna blow up our lives before that vacation, because people were flying in to watch our first kid, which we had our first son in 2021. I just like skipped over that. We had our first son in 2021, and that's kind of like when things started changing more noticeably. There's a lot of stuff I don't really want to get into just for the protection of my children and just kind of their viewpoint growing up of their father and I's relationship and of their father, so I'm not going to get into that. But we did have my son, so anyways, we had someone flying in to come watch him for our vacation, so there's just too many moving parts where I was like, it doesn't make sense to cancel this trip. So went on the trip end of 2022. We got back, and I think it was like January 1st or 2nd or something, and I had kind of come up with a plan with my mom and just like family and friends that I would give them an ultimatum. I was gonna say, hey, you need to seek help and get counseling and move out and give me some space and time to think about this, or I'm going to leave, like, or we're getting a divorce. I really had hoped that he had tried, because I knew in my like heart that it would be important to at least like go to counseling and see if that was something that would help him or help us. A lot of the issues kind of stemmed from past traumas, things like that, where him going alone would be really beneficial. And so after some back and forth, he agreed. I had previously already messaged one of our mutual friends, and they like accepted kind of keeping them in their house, which was really, 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 really nice. So they kept him in their home for 3 months, I believe it was. And so after that conversation, it was like, okay, you need counseling and to move out. And so that day he left to the home that I had set up previously for him. And he would come over on the weekends just to like spend time with our first son. But the day after he left was the day I found out I was pregnant with our second child. The timing of that, looking back, is crazy. It was 2 under 2. Obviously don't regret it at all. Like, Arlo is just such a little, like, gorgeous little spitfire. I love my kids, and that is just like the positive that comes out of all of this is like, I would not change a single thing, because I am better for it. I'm a better person. I have grown so much, and I've gotten the 2 biggest blessings. I'm gonna start crying. I just love them. So I don't regret anything that I've been through, because I got them out of it. They are just like the best little boys ever. Oh my gosh. And so yeah, so where was I? I literally can't remember. Well, yeah, I found out the next day that I was pregnant. That was pretty hard to kind of like tell my husband at the time, because he agreed to work on it. We were still together. I think we were definitely like separated. And so we were separated for 3 months. He moved back in that April. We went on a vacation, and that vacation was rocky vacation, because we were staying in the house with my family, and things happened that weren't okay. And so from about February, I would say, to July, I think, is when we did counseling together, because he started going to counseling, and his therapist was kind of like, I don't know, man, like, I think that we need her here so that you're able to like open up more, and like we're getting both sides of the story. Some people have a really hard time opening up to a counselor. Totally understandable. So they ended up having me tag along. Very fun. Luckily I had my family nearby, and they were able to like watch my son. Like, I'm so lucky to have my family. I don't know what I would do without them and their support through all of this. So we ended up going to counseling. I think we were in it for like 6 to 7 months. And I think it was like May maybe, where I was like, this isn't working. Things on paper were changing, but the way I was being treated was the same. I knew I had to get out. I knew that my kids would be better for it. I knew that I didn't want them growing up thinking that any of it was okay. no, there was no way I was allowing my kids, my 2 young boys, to grow up thinking that this was okay. So when I was 8 months pregnant, 7 or 8 months pregnant, in July, I had a one-on-one with our counselor, because I think he was like working or something, and I went into the one-on-one and told him that I was done. I told the therapist that I needed help, telling him that I was wanting a divorce and that it was over. And so we kind of planned how I would run, you know. Also the beginning of that year, to kind of backtrack, this is all 2023, beginning of 2023, to backtrack, I asked for the separation, for him to go to counseling, and for him to move out. I also started kind of babysitting to get my own money, because I had been a stay-at-home mom for over a year, and that is something that's really hard for me to kind of explain. Not like becoming a stay-at-home mom, but my thoughts on being a stay-at-home mom with the kind of person I was with. It just doesn't work. I think that it has to be a really perfect coupling for you to be a stay-at-home mom and gain the respect from your partner that you should have as being a stay-at-home mom. There's just so much that goes along with it, and I think a lot of resentment can build between the couple. There's just a lot, and it's hard because you're not gaining your own money, your own income. You're not seeing a check at the end of the week, and so it's very hard to there's like a lot of financials that go into it. So I ended up like babysitting here and there. I brought my son, and I was pregnant. I was like a couple months pregnant, and like my nanny family at the time knew everything. I like told them, I'm like, I need this money for this reason. They knew everything. My ex didn't want me going back to work, and I think you can put 2 and 2 together why. He knew what the money was for. He knew it was like my just in case money at the time. So fast forward, I had some money saved up, but yeah, July came and we decided to tell him together in therapy that I wanted a divorce. Now my therapist at the time was like, I'll be the one to say it, I don't think you're strong enough, which looking back, I've always been strong enough. I think I put a lot of trust in him, which maybe I shouldn't have, because even after it happened, my ex was like, I wish you would have told me. Like, why'd you have him tell me? So that's kind of like one little regret that I have, is that I didn't like say it myself, which I did think I was too scared at the time, but looking back, I could have done it, and I think it would have been better if I did, maybe a little bit better, not a ton. But yeah, so July came, I think it was like July 7th came around, and I had prepared a lot. I packed up my car, which was really scary because we had like a suitcase, or we had a camera outside, so I had to like unplug the camera so he wouldn't see that I was like packing up suitcases. We didn't know how he would react to this. I had dropped my son off at my parents' house, which is where I would go stay after I told him for 2 weeks. I would go stay with my child at my parents, so he would have this house, this home that we own together, for some, like, what's the word, like, to bridge the gap, to just some time alone in the home, so he's not like ripped out and like having to go like process that. I wanted him to process it in our home. So we gave him 2 weeks in the home to kind of pack up his stuff and process. It was a lot. And so yeah, packed up. There was other measures that I took that I won't be stating online. And so yeah, the day came, told him. It went better than me and my therapist expected, for sure. Went better than we expected. But I think looking back after, I think I realized that I think he thought that there was a chance that we would get back together. I mean, he had said that after, and like in text messages and such. And he also like admitted to a lot of his wrongdoings in text messages. Which, if you're gonna do that, I don't know. Looking back, like, not a good idea, but good for me, not him. Anyways, so yeah, left, took those 2 weeks, and then he found a place to live, and I came back home and kind of did the single mom thing. He came over every weekend, and we kind of co-parented out of the same house. He would come over in the morning on a Saturday and then leave that night. Come over the morning on a Sunday and leave that night after the kids, or it was only our first son, I think, at the time, like after our son went to bed. This time was extremely difficult. It was very confusing, very hard to be co-parenting out of the same house with someone you just split up with. Like, and I know a lot of parents have similar experiences because you were just together, and there's like a lot of boundaries that are hard not to cross. This was not a fun time. This was not fun to not have that boundary of closeness that I have, at least now. I wish I put up more boundaries at the time. And I think the best thing that I did, or that we did, was we continued to go to counseling for another like 6 months. I'll tell you why it ended soon. But so we continued to go to counseling every week. And that was so I think it was every week, maybe every 2 weeks, I'm not sure, I can't remember. So yeah, 2023, this is when this is all happening, but it was very, very helpful to continue counseling. I recommend it to anyone who is co-parenting. I'm like, just start counseling, please. So that time was just so difficult. Like, what can I say? Like, with him talking to other people around me, and me, I mean, I was not in that headspace yet. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, people just grieve relationships differently. I'm like trying to be careful with what I say, but it was just very hard. And another thing that was hard was, like, if he got upset, he would just kind of leave, and without, you know, like, kind of just being like, oh, this is my co-parenting time, he would just like up and leave if he got mad. So we did that for a couple months, and then end of September is when I had my second son. Now, this like labor experience was so much better than my first. Like, my first, I was in 60 hours of labor. yeah, not even exaggerating, 60 hours. I went to the hospital 3 different times, and it was like a 40-minute drive there, no traffic. And so it was crazy. And then I just didn't have the support from my partner that I wanted. And then the labor and delivery was hard. And just like the way that I was treated during, like, in the hospital by my partner, and when we got home, was really difficult. But at the time, I was in such newborn bliss that I was just like, la-di-da-di-da, it's fine, I am so happy, I love my baby. That's where I was at. So this last labor, it was really weird because we weren't together, but he definitely was more helpful, and more like how you would expect a partner to be, even though we weren't together. Mind you, I called my mom to take me to the hospital. I let him know after I had been admitted. So, like, there was definitely a lot of things that were different this time than the last, where my mom was kind of my partner and she was there during the birth and stuff. But she did leave after I gave birth. And anyways, so that was like kind of changed it. And so I was kind of doing a lot of things. There was like 3 days, I think, maybe 1 day, where after I gave birth we came home, and it was like one night home where we had planned, because he had 2 weeks off for paternity leave, and we had planned for him to kind of like help out, obviously because I had a new baby, and to help out with our oldest. One night went by where I think he slept on the couch. I don't remember. Also, during our entire separation in 2023, he slept on the couch. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, since the beginning of 2023, we didn't sleep in the same bed. Yeah, I forgot about that until now. Anyways, so he was sleeping on the couch even though we were separated, like fully not together. But I was like hoping to have help through the nights with the newborn and everything like that. But one night went by and we were in therapy and he was just like, it's very tiring. I'm so tired. I don't think I can do it. And I was just like, honestly, it's easier for me if you're not there. Because like that is just where I was at. I was like, I can do it myself. You go. Our oldest slept fine through the night. So I was just like, that's fine. You can come over. He came over, I think, like every day, like morning to night, and then left to sleep at his house for the 2 weeks of paternity leave, I think, is like the schedule that we had. But I know that I didn't have night help. I know that for sure, but I can't remember like if he came every day, how long. I think it was the 2 weeks of his paternity. So that was a very difficult time, and that kind of that gave me just the confidence with my kids. I was like, you know what, I've got this. And also like newborns are kind of easy, they sleep a lot. So fast forward, we are co-parenting out of the same house, and then a day in March rolls around, and we had always agreed that we would start the divorce process a couple months after I had my baby. So we always planned to start it in January, like had the baby September 2023. We planned to start it January 2024. I actually like got the dissolution papers. I started writing them up. It takes forever. I honestly recommend just like getting a lawyer or something, like to at least write those papers up for you, because so many people go through so much agony and have to like redo it multiple times. So I would get a lawyer. Anyways, so I started writing those papers up. And then things were getting pretty tumultuous. There was like a lot of behind the scenes stuff that was happening. Obviously, that does with any breakup, honestly. But a day in March came, and there was an incident, which I like have always kind of called it the incident. And the police were called. I called the police, obviously. I called the police, and the next day I filed for a protection order. I got granted an emergency protection order, and this is where things were really confusing for me, really hard. I was so unsure of what to do. In my state, for the type of protection order that I had, I was awarded a free attorney, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing for a couple months. So there was a couple months where I was going to court on my own trying to get this figured out, and there were so many oh, I'm forgetting the word now, continuances. So there's like, I would go to court, try to figure out, oh, another continuance, another one. In the state, if the other party in this type of protection order that I have, if the other party gets a lawyer, you get a court appointed lawyer. It has to be that, like, exact formula, I'm pretty sure. So he got a lawyer, so then the court appointed me a lawyer. And so that finally got things rolling where I didn't have to keep going to court necessarily. We all four, lawyers and us, decided to take it out and make a CR2A agreement, I believe is what it's called. It's like a court, it's basically a contract that is court ordered, and I got everything the same as I did with a protection order. It just wouldn't be decided by a judge. I was really worried that the judge would decide things for my family that I knew needed to happen as a mom and as a woman, but I was worried that they wouldn't see it that way. And I knew, like, my attorney like gave me advice that it would be the best way to go, and we could tell that the my ex was like gonna be agreeable to that, because he kind of knew he done effed up, you know. And so we ended up doing that, and I believe it was like finished maybe in June of 2024. So that was like a long time, like March to June, where I was in and out of court trying to deal with things with the CR2A agreement. He didn't see the kids for like 3 months, I think it was, because of the protection order. And then he had paid supervised visits then he had like it's called like a phased plan, which I always recommend. So you go from like unsupervised or paid supervised visits to lay monitor supervised visits, which is a agreed upon party between you and, it's called the petitioner and the respondent. I was the petitioner because I petitioned for the protection order. He's a respondent, so it's an agreed upon party between us two. And so we picked some family friends, it doesn't matter, we picked people who we both agreed that would be good to kind of supervise him while he had the kids. And then he would get supervised visits for like, I think it was like 6 hours once a weekend, like a Saturday, and then it moved to unsupervised overnights. So it was like a phased plan, which is great, highly recommend. But my protection order was due to end, I believe, in December of 2024. Y'all warned me to not let it end, but I was too confident at the time, and I've learned my lesson. And so it ended, and a couple months went by, and then things got bad again. It was April, it was actually our anniversary, April 20th. Yeah, I know, crazy. Easter. And another incident happened. This is another thing that I won't be going into, but immediately the next day I filed for a restraining order. This is where I finally got lawyers involved, like the expensive lawyers, the not free, not court appointed lawyers involved. And this is also my journey of a shit ton of money. Everyone kind of asks like how I afforded these lawyers, and I'm gonna be so honest, like I found them through my previous employer, who I'm not employed with anymore, but they kind of struck up a deal where I wouldn't have to pay for, I think it was a good chunk of months. But then I left the job in September, and I ended up having to pay the sum then. And so there was like a day in September where they're like, hey, so you're gonna have to pay this $40,000 or we can't represent you anymore. Cue a full-on crash out. Obviously, $40,000, I was freaking out. Now luckily, with my new job and working girl, I was a single mom working 2 jobs. I was saving up my cash. So luckily with content creation and with my previous job, I saved up enough money to just like send them it all. But that was the hardest thing ever, to be a mom, a single mom of 2, and have to just like fully give my entire savings. Do you know what I mean? Like, sure, take it. I was terrified. I was so scared. But I knew money comes and goes and everything would work out for a reason. But anyways, back up. So April happened, the incident, protection order. I'm like, literally, it's such a blur. I'm like trying to remember. I'm gonna have to pause and like literally think about what the fuck happened. I've literally been cracking up with myself for the past 20 minutes. I've been researching my own life. Yeah, that's embarrassing. But like, I literally don't remember what happened in 2025. Couldn't tell you. So I don't even remember the last thing I said, but I know for a fact that the second incident happened April 20th. So I filed for a restraining order and got lawyers, and then my lawyers kind of just like took over the whole thing. So they got me the restraining order, they filed for divorce for me. So I think I filed maybe April, May, June, something around there. And I think we also went back to like phases. So he didn't see the kids for a couple months. I think it was like 5 months this time. It was definitely like 5 months. And then he went back to like needing phased visitation, which again, highly recommend. So he went back to I don't know if he did, I think he went to lay monitoring instead of paid supervision. There was also other things this time that were different from the protection order. I can't really, excuse me, I can't really like explain too much into detail, but there was different things he had to do this time in order to see the kids. So things that he needed to do on his side to work on himself before he got the lay monitoring. So he had to do those things, and then he got to finally see the kids lay monitored for 6 hours. I think it was like every Saturday for quite some time, and as long as he kept up those personal things that he needed to do, he was able to see the kids. And then it went from lay monitoring, like as I said, that's like a friend or family member that you just both decide on, and then you go to unsupervised. So he's been at unsupervised for maybe like a month now, and so it's end of January right now, and so in February he will be getting end of February he'll be getting overnights. Wow, that was a lot. So now we're here. I had mediation yesterday. That was a lot. I didn't know what to expect. I wish I kind of knew more of what to expect. There's so much like paperwork before mediation that you're going back and forth with your lawyers. There's a lot of like I guess, so you have child support that you need to figure out, so you kind of both decide your incomes and different expenses, and then you come to a percentage of what your child support would normally be, and then you have a parenting plan, and that's kind of like who would have the kids when. People always ask if we're 50-50. We are not 50-50 on the parenting plan. I kind of always thought we were, just because I wasn't knowledgeable enough, but we are not. It's hard to explain. He has the kids 4 nights a month, and that's kind of how it's going to be, 4 nights a month, where I have them all the rest. So, and that's just kind of what we agreed upon, and that's why my child support is kind of different. And then we have like daycare costs. He'll be paying his percentage, which is kind of like half. So depending on our incomes, you pay like a percentage of, you know. And so like if I didn't have a job, the percentages would be super different, which that would be dumb if I didn't have a job. Get a job. Sorry, I don't know why I said that. That's awful. There's different reasons why someone wouldn't have a job, but you know what I mean. Like, mamas, we need that personal income, especially as a single mom. But what I'm trying to say is like the percentage is based off of just monthly income and expenses. So I'm not going to say like our percentages just because it's kind of personal, but yeah, so he'll pay his percentage. That'll be child support, and then also percentage of daycare. And then there's the parenting plan, how many like days he gets them, what things he decides on, and I have sole decision making. I have to let him know things, but I have sole decision making, which we were pretty hard on that one in mediation yesterday. We were like, we're not letting this one go for like a ton of reasons. And that's the thing about mediation, you can kind of like do what you guys are comfortable with. I'm really glad I had my lawyer for that. She was really good at advocating for me, and kind of like knowing what was fair, knowing what the court would decide if we ended up having to go to trial. So that's kind of scary. It's like court will decide a trial date for you, and they'll be like, okay, well, this day you're gonna have to go to trial if mediation doesn't work. Looking back on the past 2.5 years, I wish we went to mediation pretty soon after we split up. I think it would have, I wish I got a lawyer right away and then went to mediation. I think it would have eliminated a lot of what's happened. I guess I wouldn't have known that I need a restraining order, things like that. So maybe things would have gone differently, but anyways, so I'll have the restraining order for a couple years as well. And I think the only thing now that our mediation hasn't decided on is kind of asset division, which we own this house. So I do get to stay in the house for a number of years. I'm not going to disclose exactly, but at the time of, at the end time, there'll be equity that I'll have to give him a number amount, and I'll either have to sell the house or refinance and give him a number amount. at the end of that time that we agreed upon. So I'm really grateful that we get to stay in the house. I think it's what's best for the kids, which I think is clear to most people. What else? But yeah, mediation was rough. It was rough. We were in there for 7 hours. It was 10 to 5:30. Is that 7 hours? Yeah. And a half, 7.5. And I had to like run and pick up my kids, and they were still going back and forth when I left, because I mean my lawyer like knew what I wanted and what boundaries I was having. So she's like, you can go get the kids, we'll stay on and I'll let you know how it goes. So like currently we left and they were like, well, okay, we're gonna give the other party 24 hours to decide his decision, and then if not, then we either go back and forth through email, we go back and forth through another mediation, which would be a big bummer because it's so expensive, because you're not like only paying your mediators, you're paying your lawyer as well for the hour by hour. So expensive. And so, or you go to trial, which trial is a no thank you, no thank you. In this situation, no thank you. You're giving a judge the decision and they don't really care. Like, you would give them your case and your opinions, and then they'd be like, well, this is what's happening. And it also is like $50,000+, just not worth it. So we're definitely like planning on settling outside of court, and it will be a CR2 agreement. So you make a CR2 agreement, a parenting plan, custody, or child support plan, which is in the parenting plan, I believe. And then hopefully soon I'll be officially divorced. There's not like where you have to like go in anymore and like sign papers together. That's not really like a thing, not at least in my case. I don't know if the restraining order has to do with that, but my lawyer will just like bring in the papers, and once the court files it, it'll be official. So that's really exciting. So I think that's like all of my divorce story. Yeah, I like don't know what else I could add. I'm sure like if you have more questions, definitely leave questions below in the comments. I do talk a lot about this stuff on my TikTok and my Instagram, so if you have questions, maybe I'll do like a question box for the next video. I can maybe put some questions up on my Instagram stories. I do anonymous questions or questions you can like know who you are, that I can come back on YouTube because it's so much easier to like talk through this stuff. So if you have a big question that you're wanting, maybe keep an eye out on my Instagram stories and maybe I'll put something on there. But yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, it means a lot if you got to the end of this video because it's gonna be a doozy of a long one. But yeah, thank you for watching and for your support. I'm sure there's so much I forgot, so if there's like gaps or missing holes, that's why. But I love you guys, and stay tuned for the next steps in my life. There's always going to be so many ups and downs. Like he had kind of been getting better, but it was like right before mediation, so everyone was telling me, well, yeah, he's gonna like act great right before mediation. So I'm definitely curious to know how drop-offs and pickups are gonna go forward, like this weekend literally, because I do have to be face-to-face with him, although I have a restraining order for drop-offs and pickups because we do it in a public place. But yeah, so stay tuned and like this video. It helps me out a lot to kind of get the video out. Comment, copy link. I don't know how YouTube works very much. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.